So, very good afternoon to friends and colleagues from the MNREC batch of 83 across all branches. I am indeed very happy कि आप सब लोग आप आए for this fifth session. This is, of course, the second interaction that we are having on the 90 shloka format. And of course, we know that 90 shloka is actually 93 shlokas because when I did the count, I found it to be 93. So to present to you where we are in terms of our progress, sorry, I just jumped the screen there. So this is where we are. We have, in fact, started on the Jnana Yoga, which is the first topic. And we've done 5 shlokas from Jnana Yoga in the last session. I had planned for 6, but I discovered that with the discussion and with everything, probably 5 shlokas as planned would be the right way to proceed. So 5 shlokas, and we of course have more shlokas to go. So let me present the plan for today. So today the plan is, within Jnana Yoga, the 30 shlokas, there are subtopics. So we did the knowledge of the Atma in fully. All the 4 shlokas planned were what we were able to complete, and then we had a discussion on Atma and what's the correlation with Atma, if at all, with English words like soul, spirit, and other such equivalents that we have. So we had that discussion. Then we did one shloka from the Sita Pragya. Sita Pragya is a person with steady wisdom. Obviously, the connection with the previous topic is that if you have the knowledge of the Atma, then you presumably become a person with steady wisdom, which is Sita Pragya. We could do only one of the 2 shlokas planned, and therefore for today, we have one shloka from the Sita Pragya section, and we have 4 shlokas from all the 4 from the control of the senses, which is Indriya Nigraha. Nigraha is the Sanskrit for control, and therefore we will look at these 5 shlokas today. So with that quick introduction to what our plan is for today, I will get started. And we will, of course, take a break at around 12:55, so that we have 20 minutes for our discussion. And that would be the heart of how we learn and understand the meaning of these shlokas. So with that, let me, without further ado, actually get into the 6th shloka, which is the first of the 5. So I will be going by the order of the overall numbering from 1 to 93, and therefore we would immediately know how we are progressing to. Now, this shloka 2.56, that is chapter 256, is in fact the first response that Krishna gives when Arjuna asks him, because if you would look at the flow of the second chapter, till shloka 53, it's all about Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga and Buddhi Yoga, which Arjuna is receiving as advice and counsel from Krishna. And then in the 54th shloka, he asks, how does a wise man talk? How does a wise man speak? What does a wise man do? So the shloka is Sthita Pragyasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava. So that's the question. And therefore, this is the first response that Krishna gives, and this is shloka 2.56. So the shloka goes like this. Dukhesh anudigna manaha sukheshu vigatas prutha Vita raga bhaya krodha sthitadir muniruchyate. So that's the chant. Let's look at the Anvaya. Dukkheshu anud vigna manaha. Sukheshu vigatas prutha, more or less following the sequence of the first line. Vita raga bhaya krodha munihi sthitadhi uchyate. So at least we can understand the last part, munihi, that is wise person. Sthitadhi is sthita. Dhi is buddhi, as we saw. It's a part of the word buddhi. Uchyate is spoken of. So therefore, there is an identification of who is a person with steady wisdom, which is the title that is given to the section itself, as well as the contents of the shloka. So what are the characteristics? Dukkheshu anudvigna manaha. So dukkheshu is dukkha, we understand. It's from our Hindi language, as well as Sanskrit, obviously. Anudvignamana. Udvigna is agitation. Anudvignamana is without agitation. So, in other words, Dukkheshu does not agitate what? The mind. Okay. So, Dukkheshu Anudvignamana, which is also borne out by the first phrase in the English translation. He whose mind is undisturbed in the midst of sorrows. Dukkheshu Vigataspurha. So, Sukheshu. So, Dukkheshu and the reaction to Dukkha. That's what the first phrase is. The second set of two words in the second half of the first line is Sukheshu Vigata Spruha. So Sukheshu. So when the opposite of Dukkha happens, Vigata Spruha. So Gata is to go. Vigata is having gone away from what? Spruha. Spruha actually means happiness or desire. So when you are away from the sukha, that's a consequence of happiness or fulfillment, or when you are not agitated by the dukkha that comes from unhappiness. So there are two opposing conditions that have been laid out here as a characteristic of the wise man. So dukkha does not agitate you, and you are not attached to the happiness when something good happens to you. Then the further characteristic is Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha. So Raga, Bhaya and Krodha. These are three emotions that have been spoken about. So Vita is beyond, again, like Vigata is beyond or you're gone away from. Vita also means beyond. Vita, beyond what? Raga. Raga is liking. Bhaya is fear. And Krodha we saw, Krodha is anger. It's also there in Indian languages. So when you have, therefore, three broad characteristics, Dukkheshu Anudignamanaha, Sukheshu Vigataspurha, Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha, then Munihi Sthitadi Uchyate. Then you are spoken of as a person who has got steady wisdom. So these are the conditions that have been laid out for defining someone who is a person of steady wisdom. And purely in terms of the Hindi interpretation, दुखों के आने पर जिसका मन व्याकुल नहीं होता और सुखों के आने पर उनसे भोगजन्य सुख की कामना लालसा नहीं करता. So this is what we had said, when we said that, does not have a, liking for the consequence of a good event, जिससे राग भय और क्रोध दूर हो गए हैं, वह स्थितप्रज्ञ मुनि कहा जाता है. So I think there is clarity, hopefully, on the meaning of the shloka, which is also indicated in
Rag Bhay or
Rag Bhay or Krodh. Yes, I think that was Vishnu. Yeah, I think you need to go on mute. We are able to hear you. Yeah. Okay. So Raga, Bhaya, and Krodha, these are the three human conditions that have been overcome by the person of steady wisdom. So we can see that there is a very interesting image that I have put there where you are balanced. So the balance, those two stones that you find could be Sukha and Dukkha, could be, Bhaya and Krodha, so you are kind of not upset or you are not unbalanced because of these factors. Now let's look at a commentary that I would like to share with you because it's a beautiful sort of comment. So the super comment is from Maharshi Mahesh Yogi. Now Maharshi Mahesh Yogi is of course famous because he was the guru of the Beatles way back in the 60s. But he has done phenomenal amount of work. And he, of course, there is an International Maharshi Institute of Vedic Sciences in the US, as well as the Maharshi Institute of Management, where based on the principles of the Vedas, or the principles behind the Vedas, there is a lot of work and research that is being done. So in his commentary of the Gita, he has, in fact, he has translated only 6 of the chapters because he believes the first 6 chapters are crucial and the others are all expansions of the key ideas in the first 6 chapters. This is the commentary that he has about this particular shloka. So the super comment is that You see, Dhanvan, Dhanvan is someone who's a person with a lot of dhan. So for a Dhanvan, the rise and fall in the market may not be of immediate concern, of course. Keep reading about how the net worth of millionaires like Bill Gates or like Ambani falls down and rises up when the markets go down. But smaller things don't bother them. I don't know whether big things also don't bother them. I'm sure that they are of that nature, hopefully. But the point that's being made is when you have a lot of wealth, minor losses don't make a difference. In the same way, when you have a lot of wisdom, you are Atmavan, then things like Sukha and Dukha, things like Labh and Alabh, which is loss and profit, Stuti or Ninda, which is praise and lack of praise, or Ninda is, censure. All these things don't bother you because you have you have the fullness of the knowledge of the Atma within you. So that is how this connects with the first topic. So if you have knowledge of the Atma, you are an Atmavan, and therefore these minor things of Sukha and Dukkha just don't bother you. It is not that because you are an Atmavan, you will not have Sukha and Dukkha. The only point is that it does not really unbalance you. I think that is a key point that is being made here, being unbalanced by uh, Sukha, Dukkha, Bhaya, Krodha, and Raga, likes and dislikes. They don't uh, um, unbalance you and unseat you. So that's this. So the sixth shloka that we have here in our sequence is completing the description of a person with steady wisdom. Now, of course, to get steady wisdom, you need to do something. So, on one hand, at the higher level, you have the knowledge of the Atma, which was what we did last week. And a consequence of the knowledge of the Atma is becoming a person of steady. So, I'm trying to connect the flow of the topics. Now, to be able to actually have the steady wisdom, one of the methods, because we all understand that the Bhagavad Gita is a yoga shastra, it tells you the methods of doing it. So here is one method that is spoken about, which is Shloka 2.58. So it follows just after 2.56. So the Shloka flows like this. Yada samharate chayam kurmo ganiva sarvashah indriyanindriyartebhyas tasya pragya pratishtita. So the Anvaya is Kurma. Kurma we understand, of course, we've all heard of Kurma Avatara. So Kurma is a tortoise. Sarvashaha, always. Angani. Angani is its limbs, So obviously it has the forelimb and the hind limb. And of course, it's got its neck itself. Yada Samharate. Samharate means pulls inside. Tata iva, just like that. Yadacha ayam indriya arthebhya indriyani samharate tasya pragya patishita. So one who is able, now when does the tortoise pull back its limbs? When it senses something in the environment which is upsetting or dangerous to it, and therefore it withdraws the limbs. And we see here in the second image the picture of a tortoise with its neck withdrawn and hind feet and front feet withdrawn, and nothing can disturb the tortoise which is there inside. And therefore, this is one way in which you become a Sthita Pragya, which was the previous two shlokas. So it says that, so what is the condition? So here is a simile, in fact. So the example is that, but what is it that the human being does? Obviously, the human being does not withdraw the limbs. You're not going to withdraw your hands and legs, but you're going to be withdrawing what? Indriya. And I will just go to the next slide to explain this, and then we'll come back to this slide. I have not completed this. So we have therefore the Granendriya, which is your nose, and the object of the nose is to smell. I mean, when there is a smell, the nose is in operation, and so on. Rasendriya is obviously your tongue. It is the Indriya for rasa. Chakshushendriya is your ocular system, your eye, and obviously it can see shapes, sizes, and colors. Sparshindriya is your somato sensory system, which is your skin basically, so your sense of touch. And Shravanendriya is your ear, auditory system, and it is the Shabda. So if the Shabda is not there, then the Shravanendriya does not have any work, and so on. So the bottom line represents the feed-in that happens from the environment. The middle or the line just above that, the Indriyas or the perception systems represent the faculties that you have within yourself, which are able to obviously uh, process that signal, and the signal all goes to the mind, which is the manas, and from there it goes to the buddhi for a decision. But here is where we have the key idea of the shloka. So the key idea of the shloka is that one who's able to, now let's look at the English interpretation, who draws away the senses from the object of the senses. So when the tortoise senses danger in the environment, it goes inside. In the same way, when you sense danger from the bottom line, which is Gandha, Rasa, Rupa, and you're able to simply withdraw, that is, you are cutting out the involvement of the mind in taste, the involvement of the mind in shape, the involvement of the mind in touch. So in other words, you are kind of imposing a restriction on the feed that is coming in, and that is possible only with your buddhi, because the manas is simply a receptacle. It is a kind of storehouse of all the input. It's like one node where all the masala comes inside. But your buddhi will have to decide whether you have to withdraw or not. And normally, what happens is our buddhi is also contaminated by the manas. So unless our buddhi has got the influence of the Atma, it cannot actually take a right decision. So usually that is the whole challenge, is that we constantly get feeds from the manas, which constantly distorts the buddhi, and therefore the Atma is not able to influence the buddhi. So when you're a Atmavan, which is what we were saying in the previous shloka, what happens is your Atma is influencing the buddhi. So you can imagine the arrow being reversed. So if you reverse the arrow between Atma and Buddhi, the Atma is influencing the Buddhi, and therefore whatever is being fed in by the systems below in the Manas is being controlled by the Buddhi. So when the Buddhi is able to control the Manas, then you are a Sthitadhi, because Buddhi, Sthitadhi, Sthita Pragya. Pragya is the description of Buddhi. Dhi is, of course, a short form of Buddhi itself. So that's what we mean, and that's the key of this particular shloka. So I'll read the English. He who draws away the senses from the objects of the sense, as a tortoise draws away his limbs into the shell, his intelligence sits firmly founded in wisdom. So the Hindi is, और कछुआ जैसे अपने अंगों को अपने खोल में खींच लेता है, उसी प्रकार जब यह मनुष्य अपनी इंद्रियों को सभी ओर से इंद्रियों के विषयों से हटा लेता है, तब उसकी बुद्धि ज्ञान में प्रतिष्ठित होती है और वह स्थितप्रज्ञ कहलाता है. Okay. And the super comment that I have is from Sri Aurobindo, who says, of course, he's got his own uniquely difficult English style. We must withdraw them, the senses, back when they're inclined thus to rush out. Draw them away from their objects as a tortoise draws his limbs into the shell. Quiescent in the mind quiescent in the intelligence quiescent in the soul and its self-knowledge, observing the action of nature but not subject, but not subject to it, not desiring anything that objective life gives. In other words, what Aurobindo is saying is, the influence of what happens around us is not going to be there. We are cool about it. We use our buddhi to judge our reaction. This in modern terms, we say that there is a gap between stimulus and response, and your response is being conditioned by the Atma. That is how, in modern terms, we would understand this particular shloka. Okay. So now let me go to the next shloka. And of course, I would love for our discussion on this particular shloka. So what is the next shloka? This again follows if you would recall, we had said that the 18 shlokas from 2.54 to 2.72 are very, very important shlokas of chapter 2. So it's all about jnana and it's all about the Sita Pragya. So this is one of the shlokas that we have. So I'll chant the shloka. Raga Dvesha Viyuktaistu Vishayan Indriyaischaran Atmavasher Vidheyatma Prasadamadi Gachati. So this is a consequential statement. So he says Vidheya Atma to Atmavashay. Now, there's a little, trick in the word of Atma. Here it is not being used as the Atma, the soul, but it is being used for an individual. So you say I, main, that is also one of the legitimate meanings of the word Atma. And therefore, it is here that all the commentators and, Sanskrit Pandits are able to figure out which particular synonym is to be used. So we will go by the interpretation that's there. So in other words, let's look at the meaning. Vidheya Atma to Atma Vashye. So one who is able to control all these raga and dvesha, indriye vishayancharan, when the senses are running away. So let's look at the English interpretation. But he who goes through the sense objects with the senses, free from love and hate. In other words, the sense object is there at the bottom, but your mind is not reacting to it. So it is simply taking the feed, but not giving a system response. That's what this says. Then, and that is because you are disciplined and controlled. Your buddhi is disciplining and controlling your manas. So this understanding the distinction between manas and buddhi is important in our whole Indian psychology, which is embedded here. And therefore, what we are saying here is, if your buddhi can obviously exert its influence, because it itself is influenced by the Atma, then whatever the sense says, whether it's love or hate, you will have peace of mind. Prasadam adhigachati. Prasada is happiness. So you will be very, very happy in spite of what is happening around you. So our happiness and unhappiness comes from the reaction of the mind. As we all know, we keep saying, the mind is what that makes you or breaks you. So this is a very ancient way as well as a very logical way, because it actually is analyzing the entire reason why we are unhappy or why we are happy. Extreme happiness, extreme unhappiness, both are not on, is the whole message that we have here from this shloka. So I'm going to look at a particular interpretation of this. So Lord Krishna says, and see, Ram Piparaya is actually a businessman who has studied the Gita, and he has interpreted the Gita from his perspective. So what he says is, Lord Krishna stays at a balanced lifestyle to a peaceful and tension-free mind. Okay. To shun materialism is as wrong as to love it. We should neither be averse to material possessions, nor should we allow ourselves to be possessed by them. We must maintain a balance. So you see, the point is that I cannot control the world around me, and things which are good, things which are not good, things which are bad will keep happening around me. But it is how I react to it, and therefore, see, the Bhagavad Gita never ever says, don't, don't be a part of the world, don't be materialistic. It simply says that you must have a balance between spirituality and materiality. You cannot be totally spiritual all the time. You cannot be totally material all the time. You need to have a balance, like we saw earlier in one of the slides, where a stone was being balanced like a scale with either aspects of the entire spectrum. So it is not about running away. It is about being in the midst of all the challenges, yet not getting unbalanced. So the Bhagavad Gita never advocates running away from life, but advocates being a part of life, but having balanced reactions to the events that happen in life. So that is what this shloka is advocating to us. Now let's go to the ninth shloka. We have 10 minutes, so I think we can go do the ninth and 10th one. So this is a kind of conclusive shloka that we have, at least from the sequence of the shlokas from 2.54. So the conclusion, of course, this is not the last of the shlokas on the control of the senses, but this is a last shloka of chapter 2. So what does this shloka say? We will try to understand. Esha Brahmi Stiti Partha Nainam Prapta Vimuhyati Sthitwasya Kalepi Brahma Nirvanam Richati. So, hey Partha, so that's the Anvaya, hey Arjuna, Esha Brahmi Stiti. Right? So there is there is this, peace of mind. There's a Brahmi Sthiti, which I will define in the next slide. I'll just jump to that slide. So Brahmi Sthiti is state of consciousness of Brahman. Brahman, we know, is the absolute consciousness that is there behind all that we do. So I'll come back to this. So Esha Brahmi Sthiti, Enam Prapya. So once you get this kind of mental balance, this consciousness, this groundedness, Enam Prapya na vimuhyati. So muhyati is moh mein padna, or getting fooled or getting deluded or getting agyani rehna. This does not happen once you are in this state of Atmavan, where your buddhi is being controlled by the Atma, and thereafter your buddhi is controlling the manas. So when you are there in this kind of uh, sequential progression and guidance of the Atma, that that link with the Atma is called Brahmi Sthiti. So now the very interesting statement being made is Antakale api asyam sthitva Brahma Nirvanam richati. Even if you're able to get this kind of buddhi working in you and influencing you because of your link to the Atma, even if you get it at Antakala, which is the last moments of your life, then Brahma Nirvanam richati. Of course, the idea is not to wait till the last minute. The idea is that even while I'm living, I should be able to get into this situation so that, as we discussed in the last time, you are not videha mukti. When that is only when you die you are able to get your liberation, but you are jivan mukt, which is while you are living you have that peace of mind. Now you see, mukti is such a badly interpreted word with so many connotations that it has been beaten out of shape. We of course discussed mukti in the last session, but the point that is being made here is that even if at the end of your life you're able to get this peace, you achieve the objective of your life. Of course, this is giving the extreme boundary condition. So just because it is at the end of life, you don't have to wait till the last minute for you to get this. You should, at the earliest instance, try to get this peace of mind. And there are numerous methods that we have seen. One is control the senses to get this peace of mind. So let me turn to the commentary on this. So there are two commentaries that I have. One from Maheshwari. So he says, this state of freedom from all desire is called by the Gita as the state of Brahman consciousness or Brahmisthiti. Striving for it the whole of life, if one could stay in it even at the end of life, he would attain a state of emergence or immersion. That's the English he uses, into the infinite. Brahma Nirvana means state of utter freedom. You koi tension nahi hai. You don't have any problem. You can see the world as it is, and you don't have the events to unbalance you. So the unbalancing that happens because of the world outside is no longer a critical factor in your mental makeup because you are a Atmavan. Now let's look at the practical implication of this in terms of what Swami Virajeshwara says. It's not the freedom obtained by shunning the world and remaining in seclusion, or the freedom to do whatever one likes, in which one feels the individuality and builds up the ego. It is living in the world unaffected by it and destroying the ego. When the ego is completely erased, the individual is merged with the universal. This is the supreme state which is free from duality, dvandva, and delusion born of duality. One who leaves, that is, duality is all sukha, dukkha, all those opposing factors which we saw when you go beyond them. That is what this statement means. One who leaves his body in this state attains the status of Brahma. So you can see Brahma in the icon that I put there. So Brahma simply means that, boss, you are a person with absolute cool and calmness and equanimity in whatever you do, and you're almost, cool in every reaction that would normally upset people. And then we come to the last shloka. We have 5 minutes, so yes. So this is one more shloka, which is descriptive of the person who has controlled the senses, which is descriptive of someone who uh, is in a Brahma sthiti, and it has a very interesting parallel in modern psychology, which you will find fascinating. So let me chant the shloka. Yastvat marati reva syadatma truptascha manavah atmanyeva cha santushtas tasya karyam na vidyate. So Anvaya is yah manavah, that is that human being, to atma ratihi. So rati, we know, of course, rati is typically, desire or love. So atma rati is you are in love with your atma. Eva atma triptah. So atma triptah, you are satisfied with your atma, right? You are atmavan. Atma eva santushtah, you are satisfied, you are fulfilled with your atma. Chasya tasya karyam viditi. So for such a person, he doesn't have to do anything. Of course, that shloka, that last part has to be explained, because it may indicate to you that once you're atmavan, you're simply a person who doesn't do anything. But we'll try to understand what that means, and we have an interesting parallel to look at. So let me explain this in English. But the man whose delight is in the self, who is satisfied with the enjoyment of the self, so here self is Atman, and in the self he is content. For him there exists no work that needs to be done. We'll understand this again in the next slide, and let me read the Hindi interpretation. परंतु जो मनुष्य आत्मा में ही रमण करता है, आनंद लेता है और आत्मा के स्वरूप भूत आनंद में तृप्त रहता है और केवल आत्मा में ही संतुष्ट रहता है, उसके लिए कोई कर्तव्य कर्म, ऐसा कर्म करने की आवश्यकता रह गई हो अथवा जिसे करना आवश्यक हो नहीं रहता है. So he's kind of free from all these hassles. So the question arises, does he have to work at all? So now we come to the commentary, which will help us understand. So the point that Radhakrishnan, the philosopher, president of India, makes is he is freed from a sense of duty. He works not out of a sense of duty or for the progressive transformation of his being, but because his perfected nature issues spontaneously in action, which means he is in his elements, he is in his flow. And this very concept I want to show in from this concept called flow in modern psychology. So in modern psychology, they say that when you are a great artist or a great player, then great challenges do not cause anxiety in you. And practicing the skill again and again, like Sachin Tendulkar, he used to keep on practicing the same shot again and again. There is no boredom. So there is a channel when you are in the flow. That is, it looks you are totally unbeatable. You are absolutely fantastic. So each one of us would have had that experience in life when we are faced with a crisis, where the challenge is very high, where our brains have worked absolutely superbly. We may have faced that in an entrance examination. We may have faced that, when you have split seconds to take a decision, because your skill is high, challenge is high, and you are in a flow. So that is exactly what is meant by Brahmi Sthiti. So at that moment, it is not out of duty that you do anything. It is simply out of, Atmavan, from inside, without spontaneity. This is what martial artists also do, right? They are full of that practice and training and kata and all that. So in martial arts, we see this because you may have often seen a person who's blindfolded and it's a samurai training, and the watermelon is placed on the neck or on the stomach, and with the sword he cuts, but just comes to the end of the. So he is doing it from the Brahmi Sthiti. He is doing it because the action issues spontaneously, right? We need to understand this. And this is what all great professionals do. There is a moment in their lives when they are in this Brahmi Sthiti. But of course, in the Indian philosophy, we try to make the Brahmi sthiti not just on the basis of the professional actions you take, but also on a more permanent basis, which makes you a Jivan Mukta. So with that, we have ended the session for today, and I'm going to stop the share, and we'll look forward to concepts, questions from whoever would like to start. So who would like to start? So probably, yes, yeah. So Rajiv is there. Yes, Rajiv.
You have told about the control of senses.
Correct.
And this is self-satisfaction, all these things. So first we need to practice it. Then we can achieve all this teachings of Lord Krishna.
Absolutely correct. So usually when we are young, we don't have control over our senses.
Yes, yes.
So at least when we are 60, we should have control, no?
we try to control.
We try to. Absolutely. So you're 100% right. So unless we practice some yoga, at least now, or we practice Indriya Nigraha now, there is no hope for progress, because if you are continuing to be enamored by all the things that we were when we were in our 20s, then we are not progressed at all now. कुछ ना कुछ फर्क होना चाहिए ना between Rajshekhar of 60 and Rajshekhar of 20. If there is no difference, then the only difference is बाल चले गए लेकिन बूढ़े का दिमाग वैसे का वैसे ही है, is what we will say.
नहीं ड्रीम तो होना चाहिए.
हाँ बिल्कुल.
चाहे 20 का हो चाहे 60 का हो. We have to achieve something.
Correct. Absolutely correct. Your point is well taken. I think there is a chat question. 1 minute. Let me just look at difference between raga and krodha. Okay. So raga is a desire for something you like, and krodha is a reaction when you don't get what you like. So Vishnu, that's the difference between raga and krodha. They are like opposites of the same coin. Correct. So I have a raga for, let us say, gulab jamun. And then I have diabetes, and then my wife says no gulab jamun, then I have krodha because I don't get gulab jamun. So that is what we mean by raga and krodha. So they happen because gulab jamun, which is stimulating my rasendriya, my tongue is being stimulated. So kam se kam, if I have diabetes, I should not be having that. No, correct. Utna to akal hona chahiye. Nahin, hum to, I used to take 20 gulab jamuns when I was young, and I will continue to have them. Then you are in trouble. So that's what is meant by raga and krodha. So that was in response to the chat message from Vishwarup. Probably I will come back to Vishwarup. Let me turn to who are all present here. I'll just. Oh, we have Rajesh. So we have Rajesh, Dhirendra. So let me turn to Rajesh.
Okay, welcome. Okay. Nice presentation. We have come to very much knowledge through you. My question is, in the 7th slok, it has been said that we have to withdraw senses. Further rightly said that we have to keep it away from love and hatred. So some, like a tortoise example, he withdraws its covers with the cap. So some practical example, through senses, our buddhi gets message also, inputs also. So by the withdrawing of the senses, some more examples so that we can adapt it in our practical life.
Okay.
Withdrawing of the senses.
So let me give you a very practical example. All of you would remember me in college. I used to smoke cigarettes. I don't know who would remember me. Okay. I used to smoke that Capstan, and you know that it's a very hard cigarette. Okay. Now, how did I get rid of, and I've not smoked since the past 20 years, right? I stopped smoking in 2000. So how did I stop smoking? The first thing is I threw away the cigarette. Okay, I just threw it away, and then I stopped. So I don't have the item physically with me. Okay, so therefore that is one. Secondly, what I did was I stopped, going on the route where the cigarette shop is, and I started taking a different route. And therefore, over a period of time, I was able to get rid of this habit of smoking, because I physically, so if I see the cigarette or if I smell the cigarette, so seeing is Chakshushendriya. Smelling is, Granendriya. Correct. And the pleasure is in the mind. Arey wow, cigarette is very good, no? So, and cigarette with tea. So I stopped taking tea. Correct. Because if you take tea, you feel like having a cigarette, and this is all from college. So this is how this is a practical example.
Okay, nice.
Of how you actually cut off from the senses. So then, of course, so now the point is this, that along with this, I have to also control my mind. Otherwise, what will happen is one day I will have to travel near the cigarette shop. And then if I suddenly get attracted to it, then having physically kept away, I have to work on my mind also. So my buddhi has to work. Otherwise, I may be physically away from the smell of a cigarette or from a cigarette shop for 2 months. This is what used to happen. Then third month, what will happen is somebody is smoking a cigarette, then you start with one, then two, then three, then four, then you're back to the same level of smoking as before. So I realized that one is you have to physically stop being in the areas where you are being tempted. So this is, Gandhi ji ke teen bandar, no, bura mat dekho, bura mat suno, or bura mat bolo, is a simple way in which, Gandhi ji ke teen bandar signifies the way we cut off the sense of sight, smell, and speech.
Rightly said. We have to cut off ourselves physically, mentally, and all faculties should work towards just getting rid of it.
Correct. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let me turn to, Sunil Rastogi.
बहुत अच्छा है presentation है और really enjoyable और understood well. आज कोई question नहीं है मेरे पास अभी at the moment.
No problem at all. Okay. Let me turn then to Bishwaroop. Then I'll come to Dhirendra.
Raj, it was a nice presentation. We enjoyed it, but there are some small questions. Like you have really put up a very good concept of Brahmi Srishti.
Brahmi Sthiti. Yes.
Brahmi Sthiti, sorry. Peace of mind, and then free is satisfied person should be free from sins. Should be satisfied by Atma. What is that actually? Satisfied by Atma, that is not totally clear to me actually. Satisfied by Atma.
Okay, so let me try to explain to you. See, when you have a lot of meditation that you do, what happens is your buddhi gets more and more influenced by the Atma within you. And the Atma is the source of all goodness, source of all blessings. So when your buddhi is under the influence of Atma, you are Atmavan or you are a Buddhiman because you are full of buddhi. So most of us are not Buddhiman, we are Buddhu, we are not Buddhiman because we allow the manas to overrule us. In fact, our whole college, if you look at how we behaved in college, I think we were, now when you look back, we were the most useless fellows in college. Of course, we got our degree and passed out, that's a different matter. But purely in terms of mental control, we were absolutely zero. No, whatever we want, we did. Whatever struck us, but because we were totally under the influence of the sense objects. Correct? So you want to see a movie, you eat, you go and do, and we know all the things. I don't want to repeat on record all the things we did at college. It will be very, very damaging on the video. So we know, therefore, what it means not to have control. And I think now we have to understand what it means to have control. So it is, see, unless you're Atmavan, your control will not last for a long time.
Okay.
So that is the point. So you must, chant your mantra, you must do your japa, whatever is your method. The method is left to you in terms of, somebody does yoga, somebody, chants Hare Ram mantra, somebody says Om Namah Shivaya, somebody, does Akhanda Ramayana part. It could be anything. All these have ways in which they are able to influence your buddhi. But unless you're a buddhiman, you cannot be a atmavan. Or if you're a atmavan, so buddhiman, atmavan, dhanavan, van, bhagavan. Bhagavan is full of all the great things. So bhagavan, atmavan, buddhiman, these are all very, very similar terms. And therefore, we must have a sadhana. Without doing sadhana, just on your own, it is not possible. As I said last time, kuch na kuch to meditation karna chahiye, subah utھ ke. And all of us would have discovered, because we are all, as I keep saying in every session, we are all 59, 60, 61. If we don't do it now, we've got no hope at all. So we must do something now for the sake of our own mind and for our own happiness. So let me turn now to Dhirendra. So Dhirendra, your thoughts and your questions. I think you're coming for the first time. You have to unmute yourself, Dhirendra.
Yes, I am doing first time.
Yes, now we can hear you. Tell me.
Good noon to everyone. Good noon to everyone.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Yeah.
कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है मेरा अभी.
अच्छा.
मैंने आपकी सारी एपिसोड्स देख लिए हैं पहले के, और मैं आ नहीं पाता हूँ इस पे. इस टाइम को मेरे पास टाइम नहीं मिलता है, तो मैं इस टाइम नहीं आ पाता हूँ. But I am looking all your episodes.
Achha, ठीक. That's fine. So that's good to hear. And so I think we finished our discussion. We still have 10 minutes left. But if there are no further questions or any, I mean, it need not be question. It can be just a comment. Please understand, it doesn't have to be a question. It can be your comment now, because after all, we have experienced life, and therefore, I would not ask for questions now. I would say, what is your comment on this, Dhirendra? Aapka comment kya hai?
नहीं, आपका प्रेजेंटेशन बहुत अच्छा है, और अगर इट इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम अदर्स, तो मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा ये आपका सुन के और देख के. मैंने आपके पिछले 2 दिन में सारे बैक जितने भी बाकी थे पहले के, तो सारे देखे हैं. लास्ट वन जो इससे पहले वाला था, ये आपने बहुत अच्छा किया कि आपने इसको कंडेंस कर दिया है पूरे सेशन को, और अदरवाइज इट विल बी बहुत लॉन्गर हो जाता टाइम, और शायद हम लोग इसको कंटिन्यू ना कर पाते. इट इज वेरी गुड फॉर यू कि आपने इसको सॉर्ट कर दिया है, और हम लोग एबल होंगे इसको कंप्लीट करने के लिए. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
बहुत शुक्रिया सर. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर एनकरेजमेंट, क्योंकि आप लोगों के एनकरेजमेंट पर ही हम जो है आगे बढ़ पाते हैं. थैंक यू सो मच. And let me turn to Rajiv Kumar ji for your comments.
I already told you.
ठीक है. Okay, no problem. ठीक है. Okay.
So I have started comments.
Yeah, bilkul. Okay. So if anyone else has comments, please come forward. Otherwise, we will end the session here. We don't have to prolong it. Abhi Sunday है, lunch का भी time हो गया है, so we can go for lunch too. Right? Okay.
Rajshekhar.
Last Sunday you told me that you will send some scripts about the karma theory.
हाँ, नहीं भेज पाया मैं, तो गुस्ताखी माफ.
Okay, no problem.
No, I will send.
Okay.
Actually, I had promised 3 things. एक तो मैंने, 2 प्रॉमिस तो मैंने उनको किए हैं, अतुल श्रीवास्तव को, और एक प्रॉमिस मैं आपको दे रहा हूँ. तो ये 3 प्रॉमिस अगले 2 दिन में मैं फुलफिल कर देता हूँ. तो 3 प्रॉमिस क्या है? एक तो देयर इज सम प्रोफेसर इन द यूएस जिसने डिसीजन थियरी और चैप्टर 13 का कुछ जो है इक्विवेलेंट बनाया मैथमेटिक्स में. दूसरा ये है कि बड़े सारे क्वार्टर फ्रेजेस हैं, जैसे योग कर्म सुकौशलम, कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते, ऐसा एक लिस्ट में आपको बना के भेजता हूँ. और तीसरी बात, ये कर्मा थियरी मैं आपको निकाल के भेजता हूँ. these 3 things अगले 2 दिन में, अगले 2-3 दिन में, डेफिनेटली बिफोर वेडनेसडे, माने 1 तारीख के पहले 31st तक आई विल सेंड इट टू यू. दैट्स माय प्रॉमिस टू यू. और
राजशेखर, ये जो भी आप भेजे ना, वो ड्राइव पे लोड कर दें, तो दैट विल बी एक्सेसिबल टू ऑल.
हाँ, ड्राइव पे लोड करते हैं. या आई विल डू दैट.
हाँ, इंस्टेड ऑफ सेंडिंग इंडिविजुअल,
हाँ,
इट विल बी इफ डन ऑन द ड्राइव, दैट विल बी बेटर.
हाँ, तो अभी आपको जो भी ड्राइव में है वो तो दिख रहा है ना आपको?
हाँ,
ठीक है.
दैट इज एक्सेसिबल.
ठीक है. आई विल डू इट. सो इट इज फॉर द बुक. Commitment is because individual asked, but the result of the commitment will be to the group. ठीक है.
Yeah. Thank you.
One thing, dear Rajshekhar,
हाँ जी, हाँ.
Yeah, how do you go about the time management? Few more minutes your
Yeah.
to meet the schedule and such a nice preparation and all things in perfect order. So must have really had to go a lot of homework. So how you in the daily routine? How do you manage it? A little tips on that, so that.
सर मैं क्या बोलूं इसमें, तो मैं तो ये कह सकता हूं कि I mean the only thing that I can say is सर मेरी साधना है, और साधना में जो है ऊपर वाला जो है मुझे
अच्छा अच्छा
आइडिया देते रहता है, तो ये कुछ मेरा
unknowingly it happens. Okay,
हाँ,
unknowingly
It can't be unknowingly.
नहीं,
It
it's not
can't be
unknowingly.
unknowingly.
It's not unknowingly.
but unknowingly means in love.
नहीं नहीं, ऐसा है कि देखिए, आई विल जस्ट शेयर विथ यू, ऐसा मैं एक प्लान बनाता हूँ, कहाँ आपको दिख रहा है क्या?
हाँ हाँ हाँ.
राइट. तो ऐसे हर एक डेट का एक प्लान है. तो वो प्लानिंग तो करना पड़ता है, लेकिन जैसे कहते हैं ना, यू नो, मैन प्रपोजेस गॉड डिस्पोजेस. तो अगर आपको गॉड अपने साइड लग लिया तो मैन प्रपोजेस एंड गॉड हेल्प्स. नहीं, मैं कह सकता हूँ.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much.
थैंक यू सर.
Thank you. Thank you.
So ठीक है. So then we will end the session. So thank you so much everybody for being a part, and we will catch up again next week, and I will load the stuff on the drive, and goodbye and good luck till we meet again. Bye bye. Take care.